yes, I'm starting off with a sigh. This is difficult. This is difficult to talk about because, again, it's not something we normally discuss. Oh yeah, welcome to part 2, right? Part 2 of dealing with your childhood deficit. How fun is that? Everyone's like, ugh, I don't want to talk about that. But that's why it's difficult to talk about because, first of all, there's something in us that resists it, a lot of us. Also because it's not normally talked about in this direct of a way. But the big reason why this is a difficult conversation is because we want a magic pill. We want somebody to tell us, like, this is exactly what you do, and then it's instantly and magically healed, and you go merrily on your way with all of this health and functionality and a perfectly blissful relationship with your spouse, your mother, your daughter, your son-in-law, whatever, right? And that's just not how it works. So a lot people say to me, okay, but how, right? How? And the biggest answer for the how is that we bring it to the light, we talk about it, we're aware of it, and then we shift our habits day by day, piece by piece. People don't like this answer. Hey, y'all, I don't like this answer. I'm one of the least patient people who ever lived. Okay? I want everything yesterday. I'm like, chip, chop, chip. Let's do this. Let's heal this. Let's shift this. Let's change this. And yet that's simply not how this very earthy, slow-ass realm works. So we're going to breathe our way through this conversation in talking about the how to shift this, because it really does start with the awareness and then the conversation. So I'm going to go back to my case because it's the easiest for me to speak to. So in my case, noticing that no matter how much time that Gideon gave me, and no matter how much he made it very, very clear that I'm his number one priority, including to the point where he says the words a lot, you are my number one priority. Nothing comes before you. Okay? So when that still wasn't working, when I still felt this deficit, when I still would get butt hurt if he had to do something besides spend time with me when I wanted him to, I so want to tell you guys that I was just like, and I saw that it was me and that it was my fault and my deficit, but that is not what happened first. What happened first was that I projected onto him and blamed him for not caring about me enough. However, because Gideon is such a clear mirror for me, and it was so obvious that wasn't the case, I had to go inside and look. Because let me tell you what, with all my exes, in a way it was the case, although I was probably so unbearable they didn't want to spend time with me or make me a priority. Okay, so I still have accountability for that. But with Gideon, it was so obvious that I am his priority. So then I had to look inside and say, where's this deficit? So it comes with that awareness is first, okay? And then looking at where you're projecting, owning that piece, and then here comes the conversation. And these are not necessarily conversations that we're good at because we haven't had a lot of practice. Most of us. Listen, there are a couple of you watching that you're like, I've been doing this for years. That's awesome. But for a lot of people, it's awkward and weird to have the conversation and to find the right words to say. Hey, listen, here's the deal with me. I know I've been weird. And the reality is that I see that I had this huge deficit in my childhood where I didn't get enough of blank, right? Where I didn't get enough affection and touch. And again, this is not a way to blame our parents, okay? We don't have to shame our parents to do a better job. And we also don't have to shame our parents to acknowledge the wounds of our childhood. So, you can say to your person you're talking to, I actually didn't have parents who were affectionate. Do you know, in fact, I wasn't hugged from probably the time I was 2, and still to this day, my parents don't hug me. I'm just using this as an example as something you might say in this conversation. So you know how I always act really needy that way? Like I always need tons of affection and I just always need to be touching you, and it kind of drives you crazy. I just want you to understand that this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from this big deficit. Okay? So do you see this? First, it's the awareness. Then it's the ownership of it without projecting on them. And then it is the conversation about what's going on. You're actually letting them into your inner world. And I'll tell you, there's a good chance they already know this, but it's a relief. Isn't it such a relief when you hear somebody admit it? When you hear somebody point to the root of a problem instead of projecting it onto you? It's powerful stuff, guys, and it creates a lot of intimacy. It's beautiful, and it's brave to do this. So at that point, this is where shit gets really real, because this is where you can have a negotiation or even make certain requests, right? I call it making a powerful request. So what this would look like in this conversation we're having about affection and touch being your deficit, that would look like, so what I would love, if you're willing to do this, is I would love to be hugged and kissed whenever you leave the house and whenever you come back home. And I would also love for you to, spoon me for 10 minutes every night before we go to sleep. Now, keeping in mind that might get weird if you're requesting that of someone who's not your romantic partner. Just kidding, I couldn't resist it. But keep in mind that they have every right to then come back with their own negotiation. And they may not be super good at it either. So this is where what's powerful about all of this stuff that I'm saying is that at the very least, it pulls it out into the light of day to be discussed. And that's where real change happens. You're not blaming them, and you're not putting all of your healing on them. And this is where it gets controversial, is because there's a whole school of thought that says, our current relationships are not here to heal our childhoods. Y'all, I disagree. I think tremendous healing happens when we do get those needs met. Are we really going to meet all of our own needs? Every single one of them? Okay, if one of you magical people out there has managed to do that, I bow down before you in this very moment, because that has not been my experience. Have I healed a ton of my stuff? You betcha. Most of it with help from good coaches and therapists and breath work and meditation and prayer and crying my guts out and friends holding space for me. But I'll tell you what, no healing I've experienced has even compared to the healing I've done in this relationship with Gideon, as I'm vulnerable and honest and I request these things. Yeah, I know, it's confronting, isn't it? It kind of makes our skin crawl, because we really have been shamed about this, shamed about needing partners, shamed about wanting to have intimate relationships. But how profound and beautiful is it when people are willing to show up for us, not in a way of force, not in a way of manipulation? Because honestly, you guys, you know what we're doing right now is that manipulation. instead of just speaking it clearly and making a powerful request that then they get to say yes or no to or renegotiate, we're just trying to manipulate. We're giving the silent treatment. We're getting pouty, right? We're withholding and withdrawing our love. We are breaking up with people and hurting them before they can hurt us. They don't even know what's going on. To speak it and to make a request is a powerful and a mature and courageous thing to do. But we're never going to do it if we fall for the, ideology that it is wrong to do so. Why? Why is it wrong? Why is it not really powerful and appropriate to speak these things clearly to ourselves and then to the people closest to us? Even to the point of, what if there's something that one of your parents was not able to give you in your childhood, but now they've grown and healed and they're able to give it to you now? Why is it wrong to request that? And you don't even have to guilt them to do it. Hey, Dad, you know what? I would love a hug. Or just go give your dad a hug. Whatever it is that you need, ask for it. Because in the matter of you getting that, okay? So yes, you're responsible for your own healing, and you can also involve other people in that process in clear and powerful ways. I want you to kind of imagine this, right? So I'm going to go over this one more time. I'm going to go over the most common ones I've seen as childhood deficits. And I would love to hear from you about what yours is, especially if it's not on this list. Okay, going without attention, the deficit being attention and being made a priority, the deficit of acknowledgement and appreciation, the deficit of being loved without agenda. Were you one of those kids that had a childhood where your parents, they showed you love because what? Because they needed you to be there for them. They needed to kind of live vicariously through you. Like that love with agenda, okay? The deficit of being heard. The deficit of belonging. Did you feel like you never belonged in your family unit? The deficit of being understood and seen. Of affection, right? Of touch. And of stability and security. I mean, what if you're starting to date somebody new and you know that as a child you never had enough of that security and you keep getting triggered because you don't feel secure with the person? How powerful would it be just to own up to that? Just to be like, so here's what's going on. I start a lot of my conversations like, I know I'm being weird. And here's why. And I always see this look of relief on the other person's face, especially if I'm able to still be accountable and not project it onto them. Hey, I know I'm being weird. You know what? My childhood was something else. And I didn't have a lot of security in my childhood. So I get triggered when it seems like you're not, there's not security here. That's why I'm being weird. I'm not demanding anything. I'm communicating something and making a request. And at that point too, the other person is then able to speak theirs. You give, when you're this vulnerable, you give other people permission to be this vulnerable. And so yeah, there's no magic pill here, guys. But what there is bringing the subconscious to the conscious and then taking accountability for it and then communicating it in a powerful way and then making requests and having negotiations and looking at ways that this could heal. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a priority to somebody. There's nothing wrong with needing more affection. Okay? I'm so sorry for all of us that did not get our most basic needs met as children. And you know what? Bless our parents' hearts, I bet they didn't either. Okay? But we have every right, so hard for me not to drop the F-bomb there, every right to get our needs met. We do not have to shame our own desires, and we do not have to shame our own deficits. There are reasons we are needy. And by the way, I'm going to say it one more time, pretending not to be needy when we are needy makes it worse. Y'all know this. What makes us the most crazy? Pretending not to be crazy. Trying not to be crazy. We can do it in responsible ways where we don't splash our stuff all over people. But holy shit, let's have these conversations. Okay, I want to hear back from you. What is yours? What is your main deficit? Okay, what are the conversations you're going to have? Are you going to talk to your spouse? You're going to talk to your child? You're going to talk to your parent? You're going to talk to your best friend? Let's do this work. It's confronting and beautiful at the same time. And overall, to me, it is such a relief to even express these things and finally address them. You guys are badasses. I adore you. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to do this work, right? Why would you be willing to wake up and have these kind of conversations over your cup of coffee if you weren't willing to look at all these crevices in your lives and excavate all of it? It's so good and so confronting and so good. And I'm proud of you. Courageous, needy bastards. May your coffee be strong and your life be blessed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. And if you would be interested in working with me further, you can check out DawniAngel.com. I would love to come speak to your group, come to your business to do a training, be on your podcast, my personal favorite, or even work with you one-on-one.